Hi guys, Paul Buchanan Jones here with a quick tutorial actually it's a series of 3 tutorials on 3 different stitching methods in Mistika Boutique. The first is going to be following similar principles to Mistika VR, if you're familiar with that. The second one will be using an external stitcher of PT GUI. And the third method will be completely manually, no external, no nothing. The final one really is aimed at, if you ever have a custom rig that there is no camera preset for, and you just want to see if you can actually stitch it completely, with no PT GUI, no hugging, no nothing. Yes, you can. You can actually do that in Mistika Boutique. So we'll come to that one a little later. First then, straight off the bat, let's open up our media folder. Go to the home directory and grab some footage. I need my node graph open, and I'm just going to drag this directory in, pop the node graph away. From here then I need to come to my camera presets, find the right one, which is the Insta360 Pro Mark I for stereo footage. Then I'll just select my clip, get its duration, and set the node graph to the same duration. Great. We double-click this to open it, and here we have our stitch. Now, this one has caused me a number of issues. I've had this shot for a few years. I didn't realize when I first shot it, it was just out. I had the camera a matter of days, and I placed it far too close to the vehicle. It was pretty much all I could do at the time. I didn't have any other way of mounting it, experimenting with the camera. So what happened was, if I just take the stitch feather out, there was two issues. The first was it was too close to the car. So the convergence of the vehicle is completely different to the convergence of the middle ground and the far distance. The second problem I faced was that the camera lens number 2 was actually misaligned, and so it's very soft compared to camera number 3 or any of the others really. So if I show you that, if I go to show one input, we'll select camera 2, we can see here that the guy in the high vis, the trees, vehicles, everything's quite soft. We come to number 3, it's a lot sharper. So that was an issue that I didn't really realize at the time, and there's nothing that I can do about this in Mistika VR. So the problem being with regard to the vehicle, the sharpness is one issue, but let's take a look at why we've got this problem with the vehicle. It's not just that the convergence itself is the problem. What happens is that when you run the improve alignment offsets or the improve alignment angles, or if you were doing this with the Insta360 Pro Calibrate, it's an overall calibration for the whole scene. So it tries to include and line up the vehicle edges, and the result of that is that it throws the middle distance out. I can show you this more clearly actually. If I use the convergence slider and I slide the convergence out and line up the vehicle, you can see that that's great. But look at the middle distance. Everything is completely repeated. So there's no way that I can stitch all of that. If, however, I line up the middle distance better, so here, these windows here, if I just pull this back out a bit, you can see that, these windows are doubling up. So if I pull those in, that's probably about where it needs to be. The problem now is, of course, the vehicle's even worse. So if I just leave this, if I reset that by selecting convergence and hitting delete, if I run the improve alignment offsets, it's going to try and improve everything across the entire frame, and it can't. It has to decide about what it's trying to improve. So let's take a look at that then and see what happens. So one click, we can see that the buildings have got worse. Let me just come in and show you what's going on. So I'm going to undo that, and we can see that if I redo it, it's throwing the building, it looks a little better, but it's actually throwing it further apart. Let's see, oh, actually I've done the convergence there. So that's it with a convergence of 0. So we'll do improve alignment offsets. Yeah, there we go. So it's thrown it further apart. It's thrown the car further. This vehicle here in the center is moved further apart. But this one here, if I just undo that, oh, it's doing the convergence again. So Here's the convergence of the vehicle. So improve alignment offsets. You see, it's tightening this up, but throwing everything else out. Now, I can keep clicking my way through this, and it'll drift out and drift back in, but it's really across this horizon line that things get worse and worse. And let me show you what I mean. So it's tightening up around the chimney, but this doorway is getting worse. The vehicle is getting better, but you can see this door keeps heading further and further apart. Now, this gets even worse. If I do the alignment angles, you can see it's overcompensating by trying to correct this car here. So it's very tricky. It's a very tricky one to fix. I could potentially come in and tweak each of these cameras individually by going to align mode and, trying to push this up and bring it in. But of course, the problem with that is that it then starts to throw out the other side. So that's not very satisfactory. Like this, it's just very difficult. So is there anything that can be really done to fix this shot? By the way, the shot is intended as a stereo shot. If I go into stereo, there's really a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems all over the place. If I can't get it mono, I'm really stand very little chance of getting it to be good in stereo. So let's just see. About the only thing that we can do is, after a little bit of tweaking here and there, we can see here by moving that one, look, I've thrown this one out completely. So if I come to camera 3 and try and fix that, then you can see here, look, this part of this vehicle and this thing are just far too far apart. There's nothing much. If I fix that side, the other side's worse. If I fix that side, this side's worse. So very difficult. I can, of course, just put on a massive stitch feather, throw in the optical flow. That does kind of fix it, but we risk, of course, many optical flow artifacts coming into the shot because we're cranking up the stitch feather so much. So that's not really the most satisfactory way of doing things. Also, if I come to the VR mode, we've got a lot of ghosting going on up here with the tree. So that one is a bit of a bust as far as I'm concerned. Let's just come out of VR mode. So the next method I'm going to show you then is the PT GUI method, and we'll see if that method is any better. So thanks a lot for watching, and the PT GUI one will be coming up next. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye for now.